Let's take a look at creating a Shimmer Reverb effect within Ableton. A Shimmer Reverb is a special type of reverb in which the reverberant wash that happens after the sound is actually pitched up an octave, and this is great for creating really ambient, spaced out sounds. And what I've got here is I've got an audio effect rack with just a few effects in here, including the Ableton hybrid reverb, which is crucial for creating this shimmering effect. And what I'm going to do is I'll just activate each of these one by one and just explain how the effects chain is working, and of course you'll be able to listen along as we do this. So to start with, I've just got a very simple piano arpeggio, and this is it completely dry without any effects. So let's begin to create the shimmering reverb effect. And what I'm going to do is just expand this audio effect rack, and let's start taking a look at the effects one by one. First effect I've added is just an EQ here, which I'll activate now. You can see I've rolled off a lot of the bottom end and also a huge amount of the top end as well, as we want the actual piano sound itself to be fairly muffled. A lot of the high end will actually come from the shimmering reverb effect. So let's just listen to this. So as you can hear, that's removing a lot of frequencies, including a couple of resonant dips that I made as well. And yeah, next up, I've got a utility plugin. Obviously, as we're taking out a lot of frequencies, this has reduced the overall level of the sound. So I added in a utility here just to boost the gain ever so slightly back up to the level it was before it entered the plugin chain. Following on from this, another important aspect of this sound is an echo. So I've used Live's echo device for this. Let me just activate this. And you can see that I've used some filtering again, scooping out the lows and the highs here. I've got the feedback at around 50% and the dry wet just below 50. So let's have a listen to the echo as well. So now that's adding an important spatial element to the sound. And after this, I added another utility as well. It's really good practice when you're working with long plugin chains to just bypass the plugins and see the effect on the level that they've had, and then add in a utility to compensate if needed. This means that you're not accidentally making your sound quieter in a mix when you don't want it to. You can keep the level the same despite adding plenty of plugins on the way. And yeah, the real star of the show here is Ableton's hybrid reverb plugin. So I'm just going to turn this on for you, and this is in a fairly default mode. I've just got the algorithm section loaded here, and the algorithm currently is dark cool. So let's just have a listen to this as is. So it sounds nice and ambient, but it doesn't quite have the shimmering quality that we want. But luckily there is a specific mode for this within hybrid reverb. If we go into the algorithm section, the drop down menu just here, we can select shimmer. And the key thing about this mode is it allows us to have this pitch section where we can pitch up the reverberant signal. And this is exactly what we want from a shimmer effect. So it's already by default at plus 12 semitones, dry wet's at 50%. And let's just have a listen to this before we make a couple of adjustments. And you can hear the shimmering effect has now been created. There you go, you can really hear the kind of ambient effect that that's given it. And we can adjust this further. I might increase the decay value here and perhaps bring the shimmer down just a touch, maybe turn the dry wet up. And you'll notice that I've got the vintage set to subtle here. By default it's off. Subtle just adds a very tiny bit of warmth and distortion that I think works quite well. So yeah, after these small adjustments, let's have a listen, and I might adjust on the fly as well. Okay, so I'm really liking the sound of that. And what we can do to add a little bit of further customization and fun to this is, because we're in an audio effect rack, we can actually use macros. So let me just close down these effects. I'm just going to map a macro to hybrid reverb to show you how great this feature is. So if I click this logo here, I can open up all the macros. And what I want to do here is I want to have the dry wet controllable just from this audio effect rack here. All I need to do is click macro 1 and select this map button. Then I need to click dry wet. And then I need to click map on macro 1. And this now is the dry wet control. And you can see as I move that, it also moves within hybrid reverb as well. And the great thing about this is because we're in an effect rack, we can also map macros to different effects as well. So I can use this for loads of parameters within hybrid reverb. But just to show you quickly, I might want to also map a macro, let's say, to the feedback of the echo. So if I click this and select map again, you'll notice it highlights mappable parameters in green. So let me click the feedback and then click map to macro 2. And you can see it's already mapped it to there. And this is great because now we can actually close down all the plugins, and you can see if you mapped loads of macros, you'd have so much control for this over different aspects of your Shimmer sound. So for example, let me just play this through and adjust the feedback and dry wet. And yeah, you can hear how easy it is to control the sound right from this audio effect rack. So you can see that by just adjusting a couple of parameters, we're able to quite dramatically alter our shimmering reverb sound. And yeah, this is definitely something worth experimenting with more, and try feeding in different types of sounds into the Shimmer Reverb rack as well, such as guitars work particularly well. And you can also add more effects to this rack, such as chorus, to add a little bit of modulation to the sound.